Thanks, Jeremy. I'm really happy to see you, man. I hope you've been doing well. Okay, perfect. So you guys know what we're doing today. We're going to talk a little bit about knowing your end market. About that, and that was Michael, one of our panelists, just calling in, Scott. So I don't know if Michael's got an issue joining us. He's the last one who was trying to log on.
Okay, I'll see if I can't get him a new invite.
Perfect. But yeah, all of our attendees, I want you to know we're going to make this worth your time. As usual, we're going to present some educational content. We're going to talk a little bit about knowing your end market, which I know is really important to all of our farmers. So we brought some retailers with brick and mortar on, brought a farmer that I know who does the vertical all the way through to having his own website. And, you know, and then we brought an extractor processor I know along today. So all those guys are going to talk to you a little bit about, you know, what they're looking for in a flower, sort of their company ethos and culture, and a little bit about what they're looking for from you guys, so that you can have a little better idea as to what you want to produce or the direction that you want to head when you're creating your product. And of course, you guys know that today is the day that we're going to do one of our normal giveaways like we do on our most of our webinars. So it's attendee giveaways, and in that I think we have a 50% coupon that we're giving away today. We have a 500 seed giveaway, and then we have a 3,300 seed grand prize giveaway for today for the attendees. But of course, we've got the cumulative grand prize for everybody, all of the attendees of all of our webinars. Everybody who's signed up through the season has entered to win our 10,000 seed grand prize. So we're going to do that at the end. So we're going to give away 13,800 seeds today as a show of our appreciation to all of you people for sticking to the hemp industry. Because bottom line is, if we don't remove the volatility from the industry, and we don't stabilize this, we don't have an industry. And this is really important, not only for everybody who wants to participate, but this is important for our kids and our kids' kids. Anybody who's paying attention to hemp, you know, they pretty much understand the value of this plant at this point. And so I'd really like to see us all move this off the tipping point. And so that's really why we do these educational webinars. I mean, the byproduct, we hope that we do sell some seed. We hope that we do make some great friends and get to meet some farmers. But for us, if we don't remove the volatility from the industry and stabilize it, we understand that we don't have a market to operate in. And we think this is pretty important for pretty important opportunity for the country and for the world at large. So I guess without further ado, I will go ahead and bring on our first guest. So our first guest of the day is Jason Evans, and Jason Evans is the founder of Tweedle Farms in Seaside, Oregon. And Tweedle Farms is a special farm. They are really forward thinking. These guys have sort of led the Oregon market, helped a lot of farmers that were on the fence about farming, given them the comfort to, you know, understand the market a little bit better and to proceed. So Jason is somebody that I really value. So let me welcome Jason Evans from Tweedle Farms. I think you're muted, Scott.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, you go, Jason.
All right. Thanks a lot
Hey,
for having me on. As Jeremy said, my name is Jason Evans. I am the co-founder and co-owner of Tweedle Farms. We are a hemp farm up in Jewel, Oregon. We've been involved in industrial hemp since the beginning, although I like to call it cannabinoid hemp because we're not growing for feed or fiber. Our first couple of years, we grew specifically for the extraction market, and we found a hole in the market in the smokable hemp flower space. I built the website myself to be able to deliver products to retail customers across the country. And over the last few years, we've added a wealth of ancillary products, including topicals, edibles, and other inhalables. So we've been in the game since the beginning, since the 2014 Farm Bill, and we've seen it grow and change. And as Jeremy said, we're very excited to see more participants in the industry. And I myself have never been afraid of regulation. We always run towards it rather than away from it. And to that end, the most recent spats of regulation, today's conversation is not about Delta 8, but we've been monitoring and not participating in Delta 8 because it's intoxicating and we don't work in that market space. But when the 2018 Farm Bill came through and we saw that the shift from Delta 9 THC compliance to total THC compliance was a thing, which the argument can be made that it should have always been a thing because THCA is the primary constituent in medical and recreational cannabis. So, it got very difficult after 2018 to produce total THC compliant flower with the current genetics widely available in the marketplace. You basically had a couple of options. You could grow autoflower, which produced similar CBD to THC ratios, but a lower total cannabinoid content. You could grow CBG, which has become popular and easy to reach a total THC compliant number. But as you may or may not know, with CBG, the terpene ratios, because the CBG is the first cannabinoid and terpenes associated that gets produced, it kind of shuts off. And we have always been and always will be a farm that focuses on not just the cannabinoids but also terpenes, because we feel that they're just as important as the cannabinoids in the plant. Your only other option other than that was to pull early, to harvest a crop before it was completely ripe, which got you compliant, but didn't give you the ability to generate
no terpenes and no yields.
Yeah, no terpenes, no yields. This year we are doing a combination of a number of things. We're also trying some new seeds in the marketplace that have never been tested before, that are supposed to be producing varins. But again, it's an untested strategy, but we're going to try it because we always try something new. We are doing some autoflower this year. We are doing some CBG this year. But the biggest portion of our outdoor, indoor, and greenhouse crops are going to be full-term, total THC compliant, terpene-rich strains. And my biggest pivot and what I'm going to be doing to my marketplace, to our subscribers, to our customers, is really have them focus on terpene to cannabinoid ratios. In the past, and you've seen it in the medical and recreational marijuana markets, Leafly has put out a number of articles saying, look, if you're just buying, and this is for the smokable hemp market, if you're just buying flower based on its THC content, or for purposes of our conversation, if you're just buying flower for its CBD content, you're doing it wrong. I won't get into the efficacy or the benefits of the entourage effect, but if we're growing hemp, we understand that there's a deep and necessary relationship between not just a full spectrum of cannabinoids, but also the entourage effect that goes along with terpenes and having terpene rich material. So I'm
Terpenes,
very,
flavonoids, and stilbenoids, right? All important compounds.
all the oids. But yeah, so that's us in a nutshell. We we'll continue to push the market forward on total THC compliance. As of March 22nd of this year, the USDA made their interim final rules, the law of the land. And because of COVID, they pushed off states' departments of agriculture's having to have USDA compliant plans on USDA's desk until this fall. But USDA total THC compliance is the law of the land. If you're growing for fiber or feed, it's really not an issue. You just have to deal with pre-harvest. If you're growing for biomass for cannabinoid extraction, you're going to need to not just look at pre-harvest, but look at post-harvest. And if you are growing for the smokable flower market, it is more important than ever before to have a post-harvest total THC compliant batch tested results so that your product is marketable. Whether you're selling to a farmer and retailer like me, or if you're going to retail it yourself. And a couple of things I'd like to point out is that it's not just the state that you're growing in, it's also the state that you're delivering to. And if you are a retailer that's delivering packages online, interstate, every package that you deliver that crosses state lines is a federal package. The minute something crosses state lines, it becomes federal. So total THC will be more important than it ever has before.
Yeah. No, and this is definitely why I brought you on, Jason. Let's discuss this. You're one of the forward thinkers as far as looking at total THC. I think you said it well early on that you lean into compliance wherever you can. But guys, this is one of the big things that makes us a differentiator. And I don't mean us as in Davis Farms. I mean all of you farmers that are in our network. Is you have the ability to create a flower that's mature, that can move across state lines legally. And as consumer responsibility starts to come online, even if the law wasn't there, we do need to, recognize the fact that, hey, we're selling people product that's sometimes triple the THC potency than we're advertising it to be if we're selling on a pre-harvest test report. So that alone is a gray area when it comes to consumer responsibility. But the flip side of this is that, the states are starting to wake up. So we're starting to see, like, Oregon has a 30-pound batch test requirement. Kentucky is now at requiring post-harvest testing. So the states are waking up too. And you guys know how fast this stuff happens. This is a big part of why we wanted to get these panelists on here today and talk to you, is that the regulatory changes are swift. And what we're planting today could be impacted further by new state changes and new state requirements at the end of the season. We see the tide turning. Georgia has already said, look, we're going to decide, we're going to reserve the right if we're going to do a post-harvest test or not. But I think more and more, we're going to see all the states step online, start requiring post-harvest testing. So be ahead of it. We have a great opportunity to one, have a product that we can finish ourselves, but two, have a product that we can now market. That's a differentiator compared to a lot of what's on the market right now. So thank you very much, Jason, for joining us. I really appreciate it. That was exactly what I was hoping that you would bring to everybody. And Jason is also a person, Tweedle Farms, they do purchase some flowers. So, keep them on your radar. If you guys are farming and you have some very high quality flower at the end, Jason is a potential offtake for that as well. And he's a good resource for understanding quality flower. So don't hesitate to reach out to Jason. We'll bring you back in a little bit for the Q&A. So everybody's going to have an opportunity to do the Q&A. Right now, I'll just move us right along. I want to bring out Will Osseroff. So Will is the founder of a company called Blue Ridge Hemp Co. They're in North Carolina. Wonderful company, premier brand. brought them on because consumer responsibility, I think, is the name of the game for these guys. They have impressed me since I've met Will and seen the brand. It's clean. They're very much health oriented. They're putting out a whole line of products that are, health food oriented, teas, goodies, yummies. Matter of fact, if you want to salivate, these guys' social media is something that you want to tune into, because they have some incredible food items that come up on there, as well as just offering premier flour. And Will is one of the people that has always tested flour when he purchased it, rather than taking it on a post-harvest or on a pre-harvest test. So again, let me go ahead and introduce Will Osseroff from Blue Ridge Hemp Co.
Thanks so much, Jeremy.
You bet. Thanks for coming, man. Appreciate
Jeremy,
it. Yeah,
can I tell everyone?
Yeah.
Can I first tell the story about how we met?
Absolutely.
So I met Jeremy on a trip out to Oregon, going out to purchase flour, and we met him through a mutual person that we knew. Went out, met Jeremy. We went and visited a farm, went and got some good flour, and then later after that, Jeremy helped me pack up flour out of the bags into our 10-pound terpene fresh bags out of the back of a U-Haul when we were first getting our roots planted out in Oregon. So it was a good way to meet, and it's been awesome since then. And that was when you had the Mariposa, and now the Mariposa has become the mother to a lot of really great strains. We've sold the Painted Lady, the 88, and our favorite, the Purple Emperor, this year. So we've been big fans of everything going on here at Davis and of you, Jeremy. So thanks so much for the opportunity to come on and tell about our brand.
Of course, I appreciate it. And yeah, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what prompted you, because this is unique in the industry, that you test every single product that comes into your store, regardless of if it came in with 8 COAs, in the door, you're going to test it. So what was the prompt and the trigger?
Well, I guess to start off, we started as a company making topical products. Originally back in 2014, I was making a product for a loved one with fibromyalgia, and it started helping her. And that was kind of my aha moment of, wow, we need to get these products out to more people. So we started making topical products. In 2015, I formed Blue Ridge Hemp here in Asheville, North Carolina. And then in 2016, we started selling in farmers markets. We eventually got our retail store here in Asheville, North Carolina, in downtown in the end of 2016. And then by 2017, we were starting to sell edible products as well. And then into 2017, early 2018 was when we really started leaning into the flower side of things. We knew some farmers out here in North Carolina that were growing some flower, and it looked good enough to smoke. And me being somebody that, really is just into smoking good cannabis, I was like, all right, let's roll it up. Let's see. It was really nice. It was some cherry wine at that time. And that was just like, all right, our business is going to be a lot more fun after this. Nice. And then I really started, looking for good strains and looking for good smokable flower. My thing has always been like, if I'm not going to smoke it, I'm not going to sell it, because just why would I? Right. And part of that came down to like, if I'm going to smoke it, I got to make sure that it's safe for me to smoke. And I, before Blue Ridge, had been involved with some THC cannabis companies in California, just through friends and through working festivals with them and things like that, and knew that the regulations were really, pretty strict on the THC side in terms of testing everything, having batch tests, and displaying lab results on the products. And seeing some friends their companies fail between when they didn't have to do that and when they did have to do that, and the regulations hit, I knew that I wanted to start from the very beginning with our operating procedures to follow, what it could be when maybe some of these regulations are required. So one of the things that we did to get into compliance in that situation is we started to use track and trace software with all of our products, whether that's our topical products, our tinctures, our ingestible products, our superfoods, our flour, our teas, whatever it is, and whatever it is coming into our place is run through our track and trace. So that's whether it's flour or extract or bottle caps or labels or anything. Everything's going through track and trace. Everything has a certificate of origin, or in case of cannabis, a certificate of analysis, a COA, to show where everything comes from and how it's moving through our operations, and then where it ends up when we sell it to a consumer, whether that consumer is a retail consumer or a wholesale consumer. And all of that is what is required in the THC side. It's just not required in our end, and it's expensive to, not super expensive, but it's another cost that you have to add on to your operating cost. So some companies aren't necessarily wanting to do that. But where we've taken that even further is in terms of any cannabis related products, when we purchase flour or we purchase extracts, we require a post-harvest test or a COA from the lab that produced the extract. We then take that product and test it on our own. We send it out. We use a lab in California called Canalysis Labs, and they do all of our testing. They test all the flour, all the extracts. They also test our end products that we put out into the market. And what we're doing there is we're taking, let's say we buy some flour from Jeremy. We're going to ask him for the post-harvest tests that he provides. Then we're going to get the test ourselves. We're going to compare those results. And let's say that the results are just way off. Then unfortunately, we don't continue selling that product. If the tests are, comparable, and you have to keep in mind that if he's using a different lab than we are, they're not going to be the exact same, because everybody has different ways to, tune in their equipment and everything. But as long as they're similar, we then move forward and we enter that lab result into our track and trace. And then we also use a authentication level as well. So we use something called Can Verify. And what that does is that speaks directly with the lab and then directly to our track and trace to create a system of checks and balances and a system of accountability, so that when we send a product out to the lab, that lab result is getting sent to the authentication company. The authentication company is authenticating that lab result, and then they're sending that information to the track and trace. Then when we produce a product, that product is getting stamped with the sticker that is the authentication and the track and trace information. And then that can be scanned by the consumer to be able to see that chain of custody, as well as the lab results and any other information that we want to give. So we typically give information, a strain description that we write, tasting notes, and feel as well. We're really big on smoking the flour that we sell. And I really liked the point that the gentleman made before us, is like, the cannabinoid profile is only so much. You really want to, look at the whole thing. So when we advertise to the customers, we like to make the CBD percentage like really small. Like obviously we put it on there, but what we're really trying to tell them is the flavor notes. So when we smoke everything as a team, we have a system that we created to be able to come up with all the flavors that we noticed in the strain, and then come to a consensus, as well as the feel that comes from each strain, and come to a consensus, so that when the customer is asking, hey, what is this like? We can say, all right, this is, Purple Emperor. It has a calm feeling, and it has, lavender. We have like a lavender and lime cupcake is what we think that the Purple Emperor smells like. So, so you can kind of like explain that, and then the customer can scan that, see the lab results and everything. And we just feel like, yeah, that's what I would want to see as a consumer. So that's what we try to provide to the customers. And it also makes our life way easier as a producer or as a manufacturer, because you know, everything is organized, everything is managed really properly, and there's less place for, you know, human error or just like messing up, because, you know, we're sending the labs to a lab. The lab is speaking to the authenticator is speaking to the track and trace, and then that's going on our final product. So yeah.
Incredible, man. Thank you so much for explaining all that. That's exactly why I brought you on here. You are the master of consumer responsibility. I will personally consume any product that Blue Ridge creates or has on their shelf, and I am a stickler about things like that. So yes, that's what you see right here.
In our latest collab with Davis Hemp Farms is, there you go, boom, you have it. The purple emperor tea, and this one we use the purple emperor flower, butterfly pea flower, freeze-dried blueberries, lavender, hibiscus, and lima verbena, and it's just incredible. The smell, it just complements that the terps of the purple emperor just incredibly, and yeah, it's really great. So we really appreciate you guys.
And we appreciate you, and I think the whole industry should appreciate you, and really for all of our farmers here, you know, recognize that this is where it's all heading. Yeah, Will's way ahead of the game because he's looking at the other side where they were super tight with track and trace, but bottom line is this is where this is going. This is a product that people are consuming. It is a supplement product, or a nutritional product, or a medicinal product, if you will. So the bottom line is, look, we have consumer responsibility here. So this is all coming into play, and choose your flowers wisely. Choose compliant flowers. I'm really proud to say that you will find Will's COAs on our analytics when we send out our data sets, because I love to show that cross section, and he has a lab that really toes the line, so we include the COAs that he's provided to us with our data sets. But awesome, Will. So
I think one more thing I want to include is that
please,
all the tools that we use are available to anybody, whether you're a farmer or a manufacturer or a retailer. The lab Canalysis that we work with, the track and trace software that we work with is called Flourish. The authentication company that we work with is called CanVerify. And we're actually working on starting our own authentication company called Verarity. So all of these tools are available to anybody, and we're more than happy to help you, make a connection or steer you in the right direction, because we'd love to see more companies using these same tools. So yeah, feel free to reach out to us if you'd like to learn more about how you could implement those tools into your own companies.
Awesome. And we will bring Will back for the Q&A as well, and we'll make sure that you have everybody's information. So we'll get Will's information and Jason's information out to everybody, because yes, we want you to know about these people. Everybody we have here today are key individuals in this space and have been really critical in the development of the space. So thank you again, Will. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Of course. All right, cool. Well, we're gonna take a little pause break here, and we are going to do our first two attendee giveaways now. So with Scott's help, we have a 50% discount, and we have a 500 seed giveaway that we're going to do. So we have a random number generator. These are attendee based, so you have to be here to win these prizes. And the only other requirement for our giveaways is that you do have a current hemp registration or hemp license for your state, and that you don't work for me. If you're an employee of Davis Farms, you can't win. So what do we have, Scott? Are you ready to give us okay, cool. Who do we have?
The 50% off, our first winner is Scott Mertz with Grandpa's Family Farms. Congratulations.
Oh, all right, cool. Awesome.
I believe they're located out in Missouri.
Nice. Well, thanks for attending. Cool. All right, Scott, stoked to have you and happy that you can take away some seed today, man.
And then our 500 seed winner is Mike Erickson. Mike Erickson, congratulations on the 500 seeds.
All right, Mike. There you go. 500 seeds going to Mike Erickson. If you're here, Mike, tell us what state you're growing in. No worries. I won't put the pressure on him and hold it against him. Oh, there he goes. Minnesota. All right. Perfect.
Minnesota,
Man.
nice.
Awesome. Minnesota's been really good to us. Minnesota Department of Ag has been really concerned about their farmers. Let's just put it that way. And they've made sure that their farmers were aware of us. So we appreciate Minnesota a lot. Look forward to seeing you grow our genetics for sure. Okay, so now I'm going to bring on another buddy of mine here, Mr. Drew Kitt. Drew Kitt runs a company called Two Moons CBD. They're located in a similar region to Will. Drew also has been representative of a number of seed companies. So he is really in tune with all facets of the industry, from seeds to concentrates to flowers. And so I wanted to bring Drew on today to talk a little bit about, what are the qualifiers that he's looking for, for purchase in flower. So without any further ado, I will bring on Mr. Drew Kitt. Are you here with us, Drew?
I'm here. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet the other panelists. Will's just downtown. I'm on the south side of Asheville, North Carolina, and we're really lucky because we have a really great hemp scene here. Also hops. So there's a lot of beer. They're cousins, of course. We have a lot of breweries, and the hemp scene's really taken off. There's a number of local growers, processors, and retailers. As mentioned, Will's downtown. I'm on the south side, so we're not in the immediate area. But I really like collaborating, and the whole innovation piece that Will was speaking to. Collaboration and innovation, I think, is what this industry is all about, working together and coming up with new and different ways. I originally was in this industry back in the mid-90s up in Vermont, managing a retail shop, and it was an entirely different industry. It was hats and t-shirts and hacky sacks, and it was, fresh off Dead Tour, and got into the hemp scene, learning about The Emperor Wears No Clothes and Jack Herrera, and it was
Here's to that. Yep.
Yeah, and been with it. I mean, I like Rip Van Winkle. I went to sleep for 25 years and woke up. I think it was about 2017 when I realized hemp was a thing again, and it was happening. We were just planning here in North Carolina under our pilot program. I had some friends of mine that relocated out to Colorado and got into the scene, and ultimately that led to the genetic side of things. So working with seeds to selling to farmers. I'm not a grower, but when hemp became legal at the end of 2018, for me, it was, I want to be in this industry where I want to put my stake in the ground. I'm going to do retail because, I've done it before. So that was my quick and easy way to jump in. But I didn't start with like Drew's CBD shop. I benchmarked a local company that I had a relationship with, which is Two Moons. And they had a couple locations. And I decided, well, I want to open up one on the south side. So I've always been independently owned and operated, but I had the opportunity to see what they were doing and what sold for them and what didn't. So I kind of had a shortcutted version to get some products in my shop. And, the product categories, we're talking about the smokables. So you have your flower and your vape products. Then on the oils, the tinctures, sublingual drops under your tongue, you have your edibles. So your capsules or your gummies or chocolates or honey. And then you have your topical products and pet products. And that's really the majority of what people are producing. Again, whether those are national brands or you're a vertically integrated farmer. There's a lot of differentiation going on in the industry, which I could speak to, but I kind of split up my approach since I was independent and focused on some nationally well-recognized brands that produced large scale. So they had economies of scale, and it was more of a value price point, recognized product that with all the traceability that's super important, and also brand recognition. The other piece is local. So I represent about a dozen local brands that are here in the area. And because I don't have my own brand, so you're not going to find a Two Moons tincture or salve or product I
Right.
represent brands. And I think that's, really an important piece, again, in the collaboration side of things. My primary focus and how I differentiate, because there's 8 other retailers within a mile of me, and that's not even getting into downtown. So I serve the local market. I'm more of a health and wellness oriented. I tend to get older consumers and people that have heard about CBD, and they have trouble sleeping. They have aches and pains and anxiety, different things that we can't make claims, as the FDA states, but through research and just feedback. So it's really cool for me. Again, my approach, someone comes into the shop, they've heard about CBD, and I do a lot of educating. As an owner operator, I understand all the products that I have. I have different posters that talk about cannabinoids, talks about terpenes, different benefits, and really engage to learn about why did you come in? What are you looking for? What challenges or issues are you having? And really try to steer people towards something that's initial lower first cost to see, does it work? Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. People come in to try something. It's an experiment. It's a plant extract. It may or may not work. Everyone's different. And even which product works for you differentiates. So usually I'll just talk through and share some ideas and thoughts and point someone in a direction to start and kind of explain the minimum effective dose. So at what point, low and slow, do you try something and experiment with your dosage and your frequency until you feel like you're getting the benefit? And if you require a more high potent product, we have that. There's low potency, which is more cost effective. But on the flower side, it has been very interesting because the total T compliance is really important. Plants in field and then flower on shelf, you need to be able to, there's a lot of nuance to it. I have probably over 13 different varietals of loose flower on the shelf, and then a total of 26 different varietals because I have prepackaged. So as a farmer, you may sell loose flower that's then rebranded and sold to the market, or you may have developed and worked on your own brand that you want to sell direct to consumer because you get better margin that way. But understanding the trim level, the quality of the flower, not only the cannabinoid profile, but also the terpene profile, as well as the curing it and storing it, because you want that flower to last over a long period of time. And it's one thing to look at a piece of paper, but it's another thing the nose knows. So a lot of times I'll offer up some different varietals to the consumer, and they'll be able to smell it. It's a beautiful plant. It smells amazing. And you try something. A lot of people are still hung up on, is it a sativa or is it an indica, which is really the type of plant. Is it a narrow leaf, taller plant, sativa, or is it a more broad, wider leaf plant, indica? But there's the effects. And again, that's terpenes, myrcene, caryophyllene, limonene, humanine, pinene. There's a lot to it. Trim level, the look, the bag appeal, your level of seeds, unseeded, very important thing to be aware of, which, has the challenges. So outdoor, sun-grown, is that better than an indoor, which are under LED lights and may look frostier, but some sun-grown is amazing. But I think a lot of people in the industry think that when you're growing at scale, 100 acres, that maybe you don't have the quality that a small scale. So then you get your greenhouse and your light depth. There's so much to it. It's a huge market, and there's tons of opportunity.
Well, you bring up a really good point. You bring up a really good point about cure. And what I'd say, I'd jump in and say to farmers as a grower for many, many years, I think people underestimate the importance of cure, and the way that I say it to people that I'm training about how to handle a flower is that you cut the flower and it's a finished flower and it's done. And then you bring it out and you show your trim crew and you say, okay, folks, this is where 90% of the people start to make mistakes. This is where people go wrong. And I don't think people realize that you can grow a really good flower, but if you don't take care of how you cure it and process it, you're not going to get Drew's attention, because it's going to smell like hay and he's not going to be interested. You can't once the seed is there, if there's a few seeds, that's part of the deal. Drew's going to see that when he goes to make the purchase. The trim you can impact definitely, tighter or looser. The cure though, the cure is critical. I mean, that's one of those things that you could grow a great flower and just completely screw it up by drying it too fast, or, you know, not handling it well, or not getting it packaged properly. You know, and that leads me to thinking also, Drew, so you talk a lot about the flower side, just on the, you know, I'm kind of curious, when you talk about picking up these brands, what are some of the red flags that you look for? Because you said it well, you want a product that's got high efficacy. You're trying to help people to get them a product in their hands. There's some snake oil on the market. You know, are there any tools that you use to sniff out, you know, the red flags? Or
Yeah, I mean, again, for me at this point, my shelves are packed. I have so many different brands, and to have another 1,000 milligram, 30 milliliter bottle, doesn't matter what the label looks like and how pretty it is. I already have, you know, a dozen of those. And how to differentiate your product. You know, I like to look, to Will's point, which I think is an awesome, and more people really need to look at traceability and what is in these products, as far as, you know, this plant bioaccumulates. It sucks everything out of the soil. So
Mhm.
are there pesticides in it, heavy metals, also, you know, molds and mildew that can, to the cure and store side of things, the flower's gotta, you, there's a huge responsibility when you have these products that you're selling to consumers. You want them to work, but you obviously want it to be a well processed product. So understanding all the way back, and that's kind of selling seeds to farmers to then be able to have that traceability all the way through into the processor. And there's a lot of interesting things that processors are doing to not decarboxylate. So you can have a different type extraction that has more of a full spectrum. So when we're talking about all those different cannabinoids, you know, red flags are just, they don't know. So people should really understand every step of the way. And I like to go all the way back to seed. Where did it come from? Who touched it? I mean, if you're talking to someone who's trying to sell you a product and you're like, I don't know what lab where we get our product, or I don't know where we source our isolate or distillate, I mean, that's an issue. For me also, you know, because there are so many products, I like to work with companies that are like-minded, in the sense that they're, from their style of grow and what they do, who they choose to work with, as well as just corporate social responsibility. Are they involved in other give backs? Like we have, like, these are hemp composite dube tubes and containers for flour that are hemp based, you know, which we think is awesome, instead of just plastic mylar that's being, you know, put out in the oceans, which is no good. Last Prisoner Project. I mean, there's lots of things we like to involve our things and work with other people that are like-minded. So I think that's super important. And even, like, you know, we get sampled gummies, and if they're covered in sugar, you know, from a health and wellness perspective, you know, that's a concern. Are they bright, flashy worms, Doritos? I mean, earlier Jason was talking about Delta 8. I mean, it's definitely it's an interesting topic. I won't digress, but and when you think about the total T compliance piece, is that it's Delta 9 THC by dry weight. So when you talk about the weight of THC on the innovative side, there's more products that are coming out that are heavier, that have some different efficacy and effects. Also, like samples, I got some just even this morning. I won't get into brand specific, but they have a morning drops with, they incorporate limonene. So limonene is a citrus, more like uplifting. So more differentiation, that's not just your standard products. We also have products that incorporate, like, mushrooms coupled with CBD. We have a bunch of different herbal products, but when you start having, like, yingling or jasmine coupled with CBD, then it becomes like this more plant-based medicine that has other value and benefit for people. So it's not just the standard stuff anymore. There's a lot of more nuanced products that we offer up, and collaborations. We got a great local brand that's actually a beer company that came out. They're well recognized, but there's a local farmer that grows the flower that's processed locally by a local lab. That's a local brand, and then we're selling it out to consumers. So we
Heck
like
yeah.
to work with people that are lined up with where we're at in the market, and it's fun. And Will, I got to reach out to you because I'd love to work with you guys too.
Yeah, you guys are close, but I have to tell you, we're tapped in around the nation. I mean, you guys are close in proximity, and not trying to get anybody stepping on each other, but when we look around the nation, the two of you are premier. Absolutely. We love what both of you are doing. And again, corporate social responsibility, looking out for people. This is what this is about. I mean, we've sort of all been brought up in this myth of limited abundance, if you will, and it's created, and again, not to digress, but it's created some really bad scenarios for us. And I just want everybody to understand that the people that we bring to the table here and our company, we do not believe that in order for our plate to be more full, someone else's has to be more empty. That is an absolute myth. And so we want to change that paradigm shift in thinking around the way that we do business so that our kids and our kids' kids have a little better opportunity. And to do that around hemp, it makes a lot of sense. The people that this plant attracts are some really wonderful people. So again, not to get out in the weeds, but I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of, the fact that all of these people that we bring onto these webinars are great human beings and do have that level of social responsibility. So thanks, Drew. Appreciate
And it
you.
really is. I mean, it's an amazing plant and it's wonderful. I mean, at the end of the day, when you have people coming in that truly are having challenges or issues, again, whether it's sleep or pain, anxiety, and these products help them, it's wonderful to be able to offer up some of that support and help. So it's self-gratifying in addition to running a business.
Well, cool. Well, John Carroll popped up a little bit ago and said, Drew is the best. So thanks, John. We all love Drew, and we all love you too. Yeah, John Carroll, another amazing human being. We have some great people here today. So I'll go ahead and say goodbye to you. We'll bring you back in just a few minutes here, Drew, for the Q&A and the grand prize giveaway, if you don't mind sticking around. And I'm not sure. Michael Bernstein was maybe having a little bit of trouble joining us this morning. Is he here with us, Scott?
I'm here.
Oh, Michael,
Yes.
you're here.
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. I know you called me when we had already started the event. So Michael Bernstein is the owner and founder of Laurel Crest Labs. We bring on Michael because Laurel Crest is a forward-thinking lab. They're involved in the international space. He's a lab that is somebody that you can trust. And I just wanted to bring him on to give you guys a little bit of a background on what we feel a processor should look like today. And certainly, Michael being ahead of the game, and Laurel Crest being ahead of the game, what a processor should be looking like as we move forward. So thank you for joining us, Michael. And, if I'd appreciate it if you could talk a little bit with us today about, where you think the global markets are heading when it comes to extracts. And, the same as with Drew, some of the red flags that you're looking for products that you take in, and certainly some of the red flags that farmers should be looking for when they're, aligning themselves with a processor.
Jeremy, thank you. I began in the hemp space in 2014 with an investment in Pharma Hemp. Pharma Hemp is one of the very early companies in the hemp business. They're headquartered in Ljubljana, Slovenia, which is in the EU. From that knowledge that I gained there, I formed Laurel Crest in the United States. And at the beginning, we were merely trading isolate. We were dealers buying and reselling. Pharma Hemp's business changed, went away from isolate towards basically broad spectrum and full spectrum oils. I anticipated that would happen in this country, and we bought a processor in Oregon and started processing both full spectrum and broad spectrum oil through a proprietary method. The focus of our business today is removing THC from crude oil. And we do that to make our final products. We do a lot of white label work, but we also do it for competitors and others who basically want the THC removed from the crude. We remove it first from crude and then we distill it. And we do that for competitors, customers, anyone who needs that service. I'd like to focus a little bit on what full spectrum and broad spectrum oil are, and
Please.
if you're buying what you think you're buying. From a definition standpoint, full spectrum is oil with less than 0.3% delta 9, where broad spectrum oil is with non-detectable delta 9. Gets you into some areas what's non-detectable, because certain labs are testing to 0.1, we test to 0.001. Most people's expectation is that broad spectrum and full spectrum are the full plant with the THC removed by chromatography or some other method. Other methods include chemical reaction, converting the THC to cannabinoids. Laurel Crest uses no chemicals and converts the THC to CBN and CBT. I believe the conversions, either through chromatography or some other method, represent less than 25% of the broad spectrum market. The vast majority of the broad spectrum oil is created by using isolate and spiking it with minor cannabinoids, generally CBG, CBN, CBC.
So like taking mother liquor is what you're saying, Michael, and then using that.
For some who have limited chromatography, it can mean removing the THC from the mother liquor and then mixing it with the isolate. This is not what your customer expects. Your customer is expecting the full plant. They're expecting chromatography or some other method. They're not expecting spiked isolate. The reason spiked isolate has become so important is isolate prices have dropped so dramatically. It's the cheapest way of getting there. And it requires almost no investment. If you look at chromatography as a solution, there are two negatives. One, at scale, it's very expensive and it has relatively low output. And further, chromatography tends to remove minor cannabinoids. At the same time, it's removing the THC. So you often wind up with 1 or 2% minors. This is especially true with CO2 chromatography, which is one of the earlier methods that was used in the industry. Chemical removal has a major safety downside. What compounds are created when you remove the THC? To my knowledge, no safety study has ever been done. So if someone is actually removing the THC by using chemicals, you're creating a chemical reaction. The question is, what do you got at the end of that? And your chemical reaction, you might have 70, after distillation, you might have 80% CBD, but what else do you have? No chemical removal method is used at Laurel Crest. We partnered with Pharma Hemp, our affiliate company in the EU, and we did a study in Prague, Czechoslovakia at the University of Chemistry and Technology of 250 compounds where our crude oil was compared to the crude oil after remediation, with the result being no harmful compounds were found. This study, to my knowledge, is the only one ever done, and it took over 3 months, and it's available to our customers. And we consider this critical because there's so much going on in the industry which never gets studied.
Do you know if they, by chance, if they happen, I didn't interrupt you, Michael, but I'm just curious, if they happen to, at the Prague University, if they happen to study any of the other conversions to see if there were negative byproducts? Okay.
No. Well, first of all, the cost of the study was pretty high, and I shared that with Pharma Hemp. I did not go to competitors and say, hey, can I test your product?
Come on, that's what we're supposed to be doing, holding everybody accountable here.
We also, not only do we make broad spectrum, but we make full spectrum by the same method. In other words, we remove the THC, but we just stop removing it at a point where there's 0.15% left in the crude oil. So after distillation, we wind up with about 0.25. Full spectrum generally is created by people using distillate, which has high THC, and then blending it down with either hemp oil or MCT oil, which is perfectly legal to do that, but you limit yourself as to what the CBD content can be. So if you start out with a 4% THC and you take that down to 2.5%, you're taking your CBD content way down. And to get the CBD content up, often people add isolate. In our case, we never do that. We have the whole plant. We're just taking, through our remediation method, we're just stopping at a point to get the full spectrum oil if that's what the customer wants.
Right. And so what's important about this is that, okay, so from an analytics perspective, what Michael's talking about here is that these products will show the cannabinoids. They'll show a full spectrum, or they'll show the profile that you want to see. The efficacy is not there. Can the human body process that? Can the human body gain the benefit of that? Absolutely not, from our understanding in our study and research with Technion and other universities. So it is very important that you guys know this, that you know the process that you're working with. That when you buy our product, you have products that are, you know, rich in terpenes, rich in minor cannabinoids, and that profile should come through if your processors like Laurel Crest.
Typically, if we start out with a crude oil with 4% minors, after distillation, we'll wind up with 6 or 7% minors. And in large part, that is because we're converting the THC to CBN and CBT in the process. We lose some CBD and we lose some CBC, but we wind up with more minors in the process. But you're getting the whole plant, and that's really the important part. Spiked isolate is spiked isolate.
Yep, Michael was the first one to teach me about this, that people were using spiked isolate and trying to trick people into believing that that was a high efficacy or a higher efficacy full spectrum or broad spectrum product. So I wanted to bring Michael on today to talk a little bit about that all processors are not created equal, that we're in a game of snake oil right now, and it's important to us, to Davis, and it's important to our farmers that you guys are providing, if you're extracting or processing, that you're providing the highest quality and highest efficacy products to the consumer.
Thank you.
So thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. And I won't take any more of your time. If you would be willing to stick around now, we'll turn it to a Q&A. I'm not sure if anybody would have some questions for you, but yeah, Scott, if you can bring back all the panelists, we'll do a Q&A for all the attendees, and then we'll move right to giving away the 3,300 seeds and the 10K. Unless you have something else, Michael, is there anything else you wanted to?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. You nailed it. Exactly what I was looking for. So thank you so much for coming on and doing that. Scott, are you with us?
I am here, yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's go ahead and get everybody back up. Attendees, if you have any questions for Jason Evans of Tweedle or Will Osseroff of, I don't know your company, Will, Blue Ridge, or Drew Kidd of Two Moons, or Michael of Laurel Crest. Anybody, this is a great time to ask. Open the floor up to all of the attendees.
So we have one question from Gunnar Barrett. He asks, do topical products need to be made in a certified kitchen under a business license?
And that would be a Will or Drew question, I would think.
I don't know. Oh, Will, why don't you go ahead, because you're manufacturing.
Taking the dog to the vet.
Nice.
That's our actual boss. That's Jed. Yes, so to produce a topical product, you would want to look into the FDA laws and rules around a cosmetic product and follow the rules and laws that would be under cosmetic products. So you do have to follow, certain procedures and certain steps, but I don't want to get into the details because I don't want to lead anybody in the wrong direction. But you can look on the FDA website and look up, cosmetic regulations if you're producing topical products.
Awesome. Awesome. Any other questions?
Yeah, Bill K asked, with shipping smokable flower direct, what containers are you using and or shipping method works best?
Yeah, how do you guys prefer to see flower arrive? That's a good question.
I mean, I get a lot of stuff just the U.S. Postal Service. I mean,
You like it in Uline containers or turkey bags? How do you prefer that it comes? What's the sexiest packaging that you've seen?
Yeah, so I mean, we do some distribution, but for the most part, I mean, they're coming, a pound or, multiple quarter pounds. But yeah, I mean, these sealed turkey bags, having two-way humidifiers, so the humidity packs to retain that moisture level is always
Boveda.
nice.
Yep.
But I prefer like if it's be more of a machine trimmed, and then I store it that way, and then I'll hand trim before I put it on the shelf. Just because I think if you trim too tightly, you're cutting into those trichome heads and releasing those volatile terpenes, and it doesn't sustain as long as storing with a machine trim. And then again, hand trimming before it goes onto the shelf, based at a smaller volume.
Did you have something, Will?
Was the question about how we like to see bulk flower delivered to us?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, we love, we're the same. We either take flower untrimmed or like a light machine trim because we like to do the final trim ourselves, and also the flower stores a lot better. Ever since I met you, Jeremy, and for the past, I guess, for years now, we've used a company called Terpene Fresh Bags. It's a Oregon company, and they produce a bag that is manufactured specifically for the preservation of terpenes and keeping your flower at the moisture level that you keep it at the moisture level that you put it in. I mean, it's not going to cure your flower for you if you didn't cure it properly. You can cure in these bags too before sealing it, which is what we've done and what we have seen a lot of people do. But that's how we like to see it, is in these Terpene Fresh bags. We are actually a distributor, the distributor for the whole East Coast and central US for Terpene Fresh, and we sell to farms and companies and all over. So we'd love to see more people using those because it really is a good thing. Also, the USPS has been very kind to us. They are fully on board with shipping product. They just say they can't smell. And then the UPS, I know in Oregon, the UPS has a pilot program that they work directly with manufacturers, distributors, and farmers that you can sign up for their hemp pilot program and use the UPS to ship as well. And they have rules about how you display the COA in a plastic package on the outside of the box, etc. But both of those have been successful for us, as well as for bulk using just like freight deliveries. There's a company in Oregon called Oak Harbor Freight that does good work based out of Medford. We used to actually have our warehouse right across the street from them for good reasons.
And the Terpene Fresh Bags, folks, that is a good company. That's a grassroots company. I remember when they were starting up, it's a family company, and they're large bags. So Drew, you should know about them too as well. They're like a humidity protecting turkey bag, only they're large and you can back seal them. So those are good for shipping. So thank you, Will, for jumping in.
Yeah. I store after I trim them. I store them in these little painted lady there, but then the humidity packs, so that's post trim on shelf, ready to go on shelf.
Yep. That's a really good tip though, that both of you guys just brought on, is that don't heavily trim this stuff because it loses its cure. If you're working smokable, lightly trim it. You talk to two of the premier retails, brick and mortars right here on this webinar, and both of them told you the same thing. They would prefer to do the work and have the flour come through in a fashion that it hasn't been beat up and it still is going to hold cure, put a little labor into it so it hits the shelf looking like they want it to look and smelling like they want it to smell. So that was awesome stuff. So and it looks like Will's on his way to the vet, so we'll try not to bug him anymore.
Oh no,
I'll
we
let
just
you-
dropped. We just
Oh, you're
dropped him
good?
off. We're on the way back to the store.
Okay, cool, man. We're all living. That's just reality. So any other questions for anybody before we get to this giveaway?
Yeah, we have a couple more questions here.
Okay, cool.
I guess one question here is, will the retailer still sell flour over 0.3 total THC?
You said, will they sell the flour over 0.3?
Yeah.
Where are you guys headed with the 0.3? When does that start to take effect? When are you guys, are you guys still accepting flour that you test and it's high?
So right now, North Carolina has laws around only restricting Delta 9. So in our retail store, we still do sell flour as it has to be below total, the total THC. We make sure it's below 0.1, but then the Delta 9 always has to be below 0.3.
Below 1%, you mean? Below 1%.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
bad.
Perfect. And I'm curious about that while we're on it. Is North Carolina doing away with that?
No, I mean, I have regular calls with my attorney and they haven't said anything recently. So I'm not sure. I've seen, Colorado and New York just got rid of those laws because of Delta 8. So we'll see.
We're still under our pilot program till post harvest. So, it's testing plants in field at total T compliance. But then as far as flour on shelf, it's Delta 9. But kind of anticipating what may become total T compliant products on shelf, having genetics available that can go full term. So you have a nice bud structure. It's a full term grown total T compliant flowers, important. And it's been interesting because even on high THC, people tend to gravitate to more is better, more THC is better, or more CBD is better, which isn't necessarily the case at all. In fact, I think some of the best are more of, type 2 or 1-to-1, 5-to-1 ratios, but we're restricted to where, it has to be low THC, but high CBD isn't always great. I mean, there's really great flower that the terpenes supersede almost the cannabinoids. So it's a whole plant approach, the look, the smell, the aroma, the effects. And some of your flower, Jeremy, I have to say, the feedback that we get is we thought because it might be a lower CBD that it may not be as efficacious, but that is not true. People really like it. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I want to add on that note. I mean, we have people all day long that sit down, roll up a joint of something that has, twice as much CBD as, let's say, the Purple Emperor, smoke it, and then smoke a Purple Emperor. And they're like, how come the one that has twice as much didn't make me feel like anything more than, and it's just because that's not how it works, it's about the whole plant.
We all know that. We've been around long enough to know that, before analytics came along, we didn't really understand, but now we know that there's stuff that's 14, 15% that's a lot more, intoxicating than stuff that's 23, 24, 25% on the THC side. So the same's going to happen with CBDA.
I mean, I think the analytics are great to help us know that the products are safe, that they have been tested and everything. But I mean, go back to when we were all growing up smoking weed. You didn't ask about a lab result. You asked, about how the smell was and how the bud looked and how it smoked. And I think that needs to continue because the lab results only tell us so much, especially a consumer only so much, because they don't really have that much knowledge about what it even means when they're reading the COA.
That's right. That's exactly right. We have a lot to learn, guys. To give you an example, we just have results back from Technion now on 4 of our varieties that have 155 compounds and 74 cannabinoids, of which we have 45 cannabinoids present in most of our genetics are over 40. So we don't know what most of that stuff is doing yet. We have a long way to go before we really understand this plant. And this plant's going to teach us a lot, no question about it. Well, so we have another question, Scott? Sounded like we maybe did.
Yeah, on the full spectrum products, do you see much retail movement in the cold pressed oil, hemp flour and hemp oil only ingredients, as opposed to ethanol extracted to crude?
I think that's a Michael question. And I get it, like cold presses, there's a couple, like Apex was doing cold press. There was a cold press company in Virginia as well. And the idea is they're pressing the whole flower with seed, and they're oftentimes adding hemp seed in, pressing that. And because the cannabinoids are fat soluble, the cold press pulls out cannabinoids with the hemp oil. But again, say the question again, Scott.
Yes, on the full spectrum products, do you see much retail movement in the cold pressed oil as opposed to ethanol extracted to crude?
Okay.
I think the ethanol extracted to crude or some other extraction method, not necessarily ethanol, is by far where the market is. I personally am not familiar with anyone doing the cold press, so I couldn't comment on it.
I've only seen 2 brands doing cold press.
Same. Yep, same.
And we have some locally that do it. And that just, this way, the oil, you have CBD, but you also have CBDA because it hadn't been decarboxylated. So you get more of a whole plant. So you get more variety. But as a consumer, do I notice the difference between one or the other? Or, is it actually providing more benefit because you're getting more cannabinoids? Probably, but the consumer isn't as sophisticated. They tend to be very more price sensitive, try it if it works, they keep coming back for more. But it's nice to have those differentiation points to offer the consumer. And as more research is being done, finally, hopefully we can learn a lot more about how much benefit the plant is providing. And then maybe once the consumers understand those different methodologies and the different cannabinoids that are in the product, then we'll see more movement towards that.
I agree, though. Everything is right now is, extracted with non-polar solvent or the more nuanced extractions like you're doing, Michael. That's where, and I think they pull a lot better too. And not to say the health impact, isn't going to be better from something that's like that. And we're all into the raw products these days, but it's certainly not where the market is leaning right now. I hope that answered the question.
I think so. We have another question from Tamara Keel. How do you source your new products? As a boutique grower in Southern Indiana, we are just beginning to connect with customers, and you seem a wealth of knowledge about craft brands. What does a small grow like us do to be in the supply chain of a successful entity like, Two Moons and Blue Ridge?
How do they get your attention?
Yeah, so the story is important, the brand recognition. There's farming as a business, manufacturing as a business, branding as a business, getting everything online. There's so many different touch points. To be vertically integrated is super challenging, takes a lot of time. There's so much out there. It's really hard to differentiate, which is why, again, I focus more locally just because I meet with those farmers. I go to their grows. I see what they're doing. So I would suggest if you want to do that, to develop relationships within that supply chain or go direct to consumer online, but it's not necessarily as easy as just putting up a website, but you certainly have to have one. That's the one thing for COVID is that I ended up putting up a website, but I don't sell as much online, although it did help with SEO, so people tend to come in more. But how do you get attention? Samples, it's putting the product out there, and there's a cost associated with that, but getting it in front of people so that they can try, and then telling your story and price point. The reality is, again, going back to consumer at the end of the day, if everything is the same except for the brand, and and the price, someone tends to be more price sensitive. So even a USDA certified organic product on the shelf, which you would expect to pay a premium for, not all consumers are going to want to do that. So you really need to look at your numbers across the board and try to bring down the price point to consumer, because then they'll try it. Once they try it and like it and it works for them, they're going to come back and get more, because the majority of consumers tend to be brand recognized and they stick with something that they know that works for them. So it's exposure, whether it's trade show, farmers markets, you know, putting your product out there, some lost leaders, and hope that it sticks, but price sensitive.
Yeah, brand loyalty is real. But differentiators are legit too. Like you said, Drew, I think, you know, looking at organic, if that's a differentiator, even if it doesn't increase your price point in a market where we're all just trying to get our products on the shelf, any differentiator is good. And in our case as well, if you use a painted lady or a purple emperor, or a flower that's known from a breeder that's known, that's going to also help you get market penetration as well. There's a lot of lifters sold, that's for sure.
Jeremy, I'd just like to jump in here. You know, since we started the website, we've become a net buyer of whole flower, basically since day one. With the 2018 Farm Bill, we took a couple out-of-state purchases, which were met with limited success. But now that you know, all 50 states have programs for hemp, it's truly nationwide now. What I would say to any farmer, any new boutique grower, and I still, you know, primarily we buy from other Oregon farms, because I've just found it better that if I can drive there in a day and put boots on the ground, shake hands with the farmers, see their operations, that overall works better for us. But we're still open to looking at especially small boutique type farms, because we just want to support the small boutique type farms, because they can put more time and attention into producing their smokable flower. The single most, or couple points that are most important to us, if we are going to make a purchase from any other small farm across the country, is compliance and communication, along with quality flower. If you've got quality flower at a great price point, that's great. But what I can tell you is I will engage with farmers who lead off with a packet of information. That packet of information includes their registration, you know, hemp grower and hemp handler, whatever each state requires. Not only pictures of the product, but also pre-harvest and post-harvest compliance tests. Some states require batch testing, some do not. You know, I'm incorporated in Oregon, so we've got a batch testing requirement. But you know, we start, like Will does, with consumer safety and trackability, and a full 6-panel test, whether required in your state or not, for hemp, because we kind of work our program as though it were a medical or recreational cannabis program, which requires testing for potency, pesticides, moisture, microbials, and heavy metals. Yes, there's more expense, but I guarantee you that I'm going to respond faster to somebody that comes direct before we even get to a sample of the product. If they show me that they've taken the time to send me their registration, to send me pictures of the product, and have already gone through the expense of a full 6-panel batch test, that is going to get my attention, and I will engage with those people a lot faster than people just sending me random samples of flower.
And folks, these people are the leaders in the space, but this will be the standard. Eventually, you know, the rest are going to be forced to toe the line. You're just talking to industry leaders that are smart enough to recognize that compliance and, you know, jumping through regulatory hurdles is a way to stay in business. So just know that I think more and more learning how to do these things from these guys is going to help you to have better success in marketing your product.
Can I include something what not to do?
Please.
Don't just send flour in a Ziploc bag in a USPS box with no COA and no note of who you are and anything, because you'd be surprised how often that happens. We just get like a box with flour and it's like, who is this? Where did it come from? And then like I'll like look and it'll like have to like look up the name of who it came from and find their email or their Instagram and be like, hey, we got your package, but unfortunately we're not gonna do anything with it because we don't know who you are.
Well, you can assume, right? Yes.
Yeah. So don't do that, please.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep everybody all day. I know we had a couple more questions, but look, I want to get to giving away the 3,300 and the 10,000 seeds because that's a big thing. We've been pushing for this 10,000 seeds since, I don't know, middle of March. Well, since March 22nd. So since the USDA final rules come out. So let's move forward. Unless, I guess, let's take one more question, Scott, because I did see some were stacked up there.
Okay, one more question.
I can answer the Mike Erickson question. You could check out Santa Packaging. They make hemp tubes that are really great. And then there's a company based in Oregon called Printed on Hemp that does hemp cardboard boxes, business cards, any type of printable material that you need. Those are two companies that are good making like sustainable packaging solutions.
Yeah, and I'll just echo what Will says. We already use Santa Packaging. We in all of our packaging, whether it's tubes, packaging for flour, doing smaller small batch runs, we will either use hemp plastic, hemp paper, PCR, 100% PCR, which is post-consumer recycled and or ocean reclaimed plastic, and sometimes glass for our small batch boutique runs. But the only other bags that we also use Grove bags. That's Kinsey plastic. They are upcyclable and recyclable Terplock bags. But yeah, it's more expensive, but we either use anything that can be recycled, has been recycled, or will be recycled in all of our packaging.
And I'll include that stuff, those links to Santa Packaging and the other hemp packaging company here in Oregon, as well as the links to all of these guys in an email to all of the attendees post show. So we'll get an email out to everybody that'll have all of the information. So don't worry, everybody can contact Jason and Michael, Drew, Will, and packaging companies. Anything else we've talked about, we'll make sure that we include the links.
Great. One more.
Okay.
Credit card processing. Who do you guys use?
I have a local bank here that literally, because I have a brick and mortar, so they've physically come to the shop, they've talked to me, they understand. I mean, I've been in business for a while, I understand the product, so they trust that what I'm doing is correct. But online, they don't allow anything. So I went through the Square, which I think they did. I went through the beta program. So it took a long time of sending in a lot of information to finally get approved, and so far so good. But what I sell online isn't all the same things that I sell in the shop. So I do have some controls in place as far as making sure who I'm selling to is of age and things. So I kind of have a hybrid type model. But yeah, Square and a local bank, to answer your question.
Yeah, kind of echoing on what Drew said, we are 100% direct to consumer. We don't wholesale and we do not do brick and mortar. So since day one, we've been through every single banking and credit card problem you can experience. I will echo what Drew says is get a good banking relationship. We happen to be in the Square beta program as well. That said, we have always had multiple processors as a backup. We've had one processor for multiple years, and without notice, they ended up shutting down their whole US credit card processing platform as of yesterday without notice. That's become the standard in this industry. So what I can say is if you are going to retail online, deal with an ISO only, don't deal with a broker, and have multiple backups. And do not, under any circumstances, build a website with a limited amount of product on there, get approval, and then after you've got credit card processing, slam a bunch of other products that are going to get you shut down, because that's most of the people that have problems with Square or have problems with any other credit card processor will do that. And any credit card processor knows to look at your website build out after approval. So, you know, kind of like a lot of things that we're doing here, be ahead of things, do it right the first time rather than just trying to get in and sneak stuff in after the fact.
Yeah.
I do not discuss publicly who our credit card processors are, but if people want to reach out to me after the fact, I can, I'm happy to point anybody in a couple of directions that will get them help.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jason. Anything to add, Will? Or
I would just say the same thing. Build a good relationship with your bank, but then also have multiple backups, because I can't even count on my fingers and toes how many different solutions we've used. From the worst one was the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week phone team that was doing it all over the phones. So you don't want to have to do that.
no, and you know, I'm not afraid to say that while we've been on the phone, so we've worked really hard as a company to have good banking, just good banking, not even you know, merchant services. And while we've been on this webinar, I had the regional manager from our bank contact me, reach out to me twice, and you know, I'm just wondering, okay, what is it? You know, but that is the arena in which we operate, and let's all hope that collectively we can get beyond this, because we're one of the most legitimate industries, and we certainly need quality banking. So yes, I'm happy that you brought that up, and thank you guys for sharing on the CC processing. Yeah, you're welcome, Stacy, for sure. That's what we're here for. We're all here to openly answer questions and help develop and build a sustainable industry. So thanks, Will, and thank you guys, all of you. Well, cool. Well, let's give away some seed. What do you say, Seth?
Let's do it. So,
Okay, so 3,300 seeds. Who's going to get 3,300 seeds free of charge?
3,300 seeds.
Drum roll.
I was gonna. I need you got it, Will. I wanted to get some like DJ sounds.
Okay, our 3,300 seed winner is Cody Feldhake.
Cody.
I pronounced your last name wrong, Cody, but congratulations.
Perfect.
Way to go, Cody.
Are you still here with us, Cody? If you are, tell us what state you're from, where you're growing. Oh yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Ohio. All right.
Congrats.
Wonderful. Okay. So now we've been stacking this up for months, and this person may or may not be in attendance. We'll see. But the 10,000 seed giveaway, who's getting 10,000?
So the 1,000 big winner is Jackie Reinhardt.
Jackie Reinhardt. Do you happen to be in attendance? From South Carolina?
Yes.
Is Jackie here?
I don't see Jackie in the attendees.
She may have
cool.
lost.
We'll go ahead and hit Jackie. We'll send Jackie an email and let her know. Does you see what state she's in by chance, Scott? Does he say? Oh, South Carolina. You said.
South Carolina,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, perfect. So just south of you guys. All right, well, that's
Awesome.
it then. Yeah, congrats to everybody. And man, you guys were awesome. Thank you all so much for spending your morning with me, man.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having
thank you,
Thanks,
Will.
everybody.
Thank you, Drew, Jason. You guys were all awesome. Very awesome. I know everybody appreciated your time. So we'll
Here's
talk
to
to
a
y'all
good
soon.
season.
Yeah, let's all have a good season. We will follow up with everybody's information in an email to all attendees. So you guys will have everybody's info, so you can follow up and contact these guys. And I encourage you to. just like us, these guys are all great resources. And as you can see, they're willing to answer questions, and they will not give you the answer if they don't have it. They will tell you they don't. Every answer you get will be straight and honest from these guys. Wonderful.
Well, thanks again.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a good day.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.